Welcome, all the participants. All right. Welcome to all participants to the interconnected webinar series, Too Hot to Work, Progress and Challenges in Heat Legislation for Workers' Protection. This is the second part of the interconnected webinar series presented by the Pulitzer Center. My name is Granti Paramita. I will be your moderator today. The Pulitzer Center champions the power of stories to make issues relevant, and we would like to continue to contribute to change. We would like to welcome all participants coming from different countries. Please introduce yourself through the chat box with your name, affiliations, and also countries. In this webinar, we are holding the Youth Content Contest, where participants have a chance to win interesting prizes. Please see the instruction in the chat for how to enter the contest. We invite participants to check the interpretation channels for English, Bahasa Indonesia, French, Spanish, and Portuguese. This is available at the bottom of your screen. Please post your questions in the Q&A features that's available in your screen as well. Some questions will be answered live by our speakers. All right, please continue to introduce yourself in the chat box. All right, so let's us begin the webinar. There's no planet B, and we are all feeling that the Earth is boiling. Weather anomalies, extreme heat, sea level rise, it has affected our daily lives. We have seen the impact on workers, outdoors and indoors. This is revealed by our work and environment grantees in Pulitzer Center. Journalists globally have joined forces to uncover the underreported and under-researched topic on climate change and labor. Journalists like Shagun Kapil, Arin Baker, and others that supported by Pulitzer Center have shown that the heat legislation to protect workers exists in some countries. This webinar is an opportunity to discuss to what extent has those legislation been enforced, and to inspire the decision makers as well to initiate such regulations. We bring together journalists, researchers, decision makers to discuss insights that contribute to better governance on climate change and workers' protection. Today, we have the honor to learn from 4 speakers and the key people that have relentlessly working on this topic. Shagun Kapil from Down to Earth, Jason Lee from National University of Singapore, Jani Purnawanti from Universitas Erlangga, and Ahmad Dahlan from PT Pertamina Persero. We will learn about the heat impact in workers in different sectors, legislation, and also how good governance can help us tackle this urgent issue. Now, I would like to introduce you to our first speaker, Shagun Kapil. Shagun is a special correspondent with Down to Earth, India's premier environment and development magazine. She reports on the intersection of climate change and development and livelihoods, rural communities, agriculture, and food system. You may take the floor, Shagun.
Thank you so much, Granti. So glad to be here. Hello to everyone. Can you put on the presentation, please? Right. So I would like to start by saying that when it comes to heat or extreme heat, especially in the context of climate change, the toll it takes on our labor and the people who build our cities and also keep them functioning, that aspect is one of the most under-discussed or even under-reported aspects. And whenever these issues are even discussed, it's usually about labor productivity or how heat is affecting productivity and labor supply. And that is why when we pitched the story for the Pulitzer Grant, our focus was on how extreme heat is impacting workers, impacting their health, their capacity to work, and in turn, their livelihoods as well. So for this story, my colleague Joel Michael and me, we traveled to 4 states and we covered different industries like brick kilns, boiler plants that operate textiles, construction sites, power looms, even small unit workers, artifacts manufacturers, and also women who are home-based workers who work for small-scale units out of their homes. So I will be talking about my learnings and experiences from that ground reportage and from an Indian context. So just to set a brief context here, we are aware that 2023 was the hottest year in the observational record, and 2024 is now on track to be the hottest year. When it comes to India, the country has seen its third year of severe heat waves. And India is also a country which has a large labor force, and not only a large labor force, but 82% of this force is employed in informal work or in the unorganized sector. And this is nearly about 440 million people in absolute numbers, as per the government data. And they are performing outdoor jobs that involve physically demanding tasks in agriculture, in construction, brick kilns, and similar fields. And these are the workers who have low wages, limited job security, they lack any legal protection. And now add to this the significant risk they face due to heat stress because of their frequent exposure to extreme heat at work. Next slide, please. So I've kept this photo here and his quote here because this is what he said exactly about how his work feels to him now. He's a brick kiln worker, but what he said was also repeated by many brick kiln workers and many other workers in different industries that we spoke to. Next slide. In terms of outdoor work, we focused on brick kilns and construction workers. Also, because India is a fast growing economy, it is urbanizing at a very rapid pace. And brick kilns and construction workers, they both form the backbone of this growth. So we wanted to document how heat is upending their lives. And what we found was that in many cases, heat and even protection from heat is not even a factor at these sites. The site owners are not even considering or thinking about as to how to deal with this new reality. So this factor is often ignored. But for these workers, their work is testing their limits of survivability, and the work itself has become like an intolerable punishment. So, for example, this is a photo of workers at a mall construction site, and this mall is coming up in Ahmedabad city. It's still ongoing. The construction is still ongoing. So workers here usually start working at 8 a.m. and many of them told us that in the last few years, say 2 to 3 or 4 years, they have been feeling the heat just as the clock strikes 10 in the morning, especially in the months of April and May. And those are also very critical months for construction or even brick kiln work because from June onwards, India has its 4-month southwest monsoon period. And here, even though in extreme heat periods, the managers of the construction sites allowed them to take more frequent breaks than in the past. But there are many tasks here in which workers cannot take those breaks very often, even if their body is giving up or the body doesn't feel like that it can work past a certain limit. For instance, a lot of workers here have to, as we see in construction, have to clip themselves to a harness and tread the scaffolding of the building and be there for hours because they cannot take a break because they'll have to unclip them again and again and do the same exercise. So it's just inconvenient, even if there is a provision that the manager is giving them to take a break. It's just inconvenient for the whole routine of activity that is set up. Next slide, please. Now coming to brick kiln. So this is a usual brick kiln. So this area is the area where bricks are baked. They are made, they are molded. So there are 3 stages. First set of workers mold bricks, then and they have to do this while sitting in the sun in open space. So because they have to mold it from clay, so they are under direct exposure of the sun. And now then these have to be transported to the kiln. And there are another set of workers there, and their task is to operate the kiln, basically to add fuel to the kiln to make sure that it is always burning and the bricks are burnt inside. Now here, not here, but the other, I didn't have a photo. I had a video of that place, so I couldn't put it. So there, the exposure is much more than those who just mold bricks. So there, the exposure, the workers are exposed to both sunlight and additional heat that is coming from the furnace that is inside the kiln. The chambers that feed the fuel, they burn the bricks at temperatures ranging from 1100 degrees Celsius to 1200 degrees Celsius. And that is just scorching for them. So for reporting on this, we went there on different occasions to interact with the workers and observe their routine. And it was almost impossible for us to keep standing there continuously. But the workers here, they spend a total of, I think, 6 hours near the chamber. And of these, 3 are during the daytime. So this means that for at least 3 hours of their shift, the workers are exposed to extreme temperatures continuously. We went there with a device to record maximum and minimum ambient temperature and also wet bulb temperature, which takes into account both humidity and air temperature. And we found that, for example, at one of the kilns we visited in May end, we recorded a temperature of 48 degrees Celsius and a wet bulb of 30.3 around. And just maybe 200 meters away from that furnace, there was a temperature difference of a great 2 degrees Celsius. But the workers who work here, for them, it felt like the temperatures are crossing even 50. What we say, the feel like temperatures. That was when we asked them, what do you feel like the temperature is? They said, it feels like it's crossing 50 degrees Celsius. Next slide, please. So whenever we speak about heat and labor, we instantly think about outdoor workers because they are directly exposed to the sun. But we also wanted to look at indoor work. And while doing that, we also realized that even most of the scientific research on heat and labor has been on outdoor work or workers. So this is a photo of a power loom unit that produces fabric. So this unit is basically without even a fan because operating the fan will interfere with the fabric work. The only ventilation is the main door, as you can see in the photo. Workers spend more than 12 hours every day. One worker will spend 12 hours every day inside this heated environment, constantly moving between these machines. So one worker will manage all these machines. There is no room to sit anywhere inside this unit. Here, when we spoke to workers, they even told us that some of their colleagues have died in the past after fainting because of heat stroke. And that even, every 1 or 2 years, they see a death in the summer months. But unfortunately, not all these deaths are reported to the authorities, and they are not counted as heat-related deaths in the official system. Next slide, please. So now in these two photos, even though they're working indoors, they are in direct exposure to heat and humidity. The first photo is of a worker inside a boiler plant. I wanted to tell you a little about this. So this job entails standing next to a furnace in a dark factory with insufficient ventilation again. It is generating some 350, 400 degrees Celsius of heat. And the job is to feed wood into it for at least 10 hours each day. And there is no option to cool down your body, not even the relief of an occasional breeze that may come help during outside work, outdoor work. For that, you have to stop your work and step outside, take a break, where again the ambient temperature is of not much help. So this was in Ahmedabad city, and this boiler plant is inside a textile factory. It generates steam for the factory. And Ahmedabad city is often called the Manchester of India because of its textile industry. And in this city alone, there are some 30,000 such boiler plants. And this heat gets even more extreme as many factories lack proper ventilation. For example, in this one, apart from the main entrance, again, there is no other ventilation. And even though these factories have fans, When we asked the workers, like, do you get any relief? And they said they're useless because they all blow hot air, again, because there is no ventilation. Uh, in both these photos, the workers are working with fuel. And the second photo on the right is of a person working inside it was a very small, say 9 into 7 foot space maybe. He's an artisan in Uttar Pradesh state in Moradabad city, which is well known for its brass and metal handicrafts that are exported worldwide. So we wanted to document how workers who actually make these artifacts, they work, in what conditions do they work. And here this artisan is melting and casting an incense holder. So within this small space, he and two others, they carry out their entire process from pattern making, designing molds, melting the metal at high temperature with coal. And in many of these places, whether it be boiler plants or these small spaces, the wet bulb temperatures we recorded were above the standards considered safe for work for an acclimatized worker. And another concerning thing that I wanted to point out is that workers are trapped in a loop of heat. And this heat lasts far beyond their working hours due to their appalling living conditions. Their living spaces are frequently located within the factory grounds because that's convenient for them also. Uh, these rooms resemble ovens because they are made of asbestos or tin sheets that actually trap heat. And many times the nighttime temperatures inside are higher than the outside temperatures. In some locations, we found that workers were sitting inside their rooms with fans switched off as they blow hot air again. So after getting exposed to heat all day, their bodies are not getting a chance to cool down and recover properly. And experts told us that this can have severe health consequences over a period of time.
Three
Can I have the
minutes more, Shagun.
yeah,
3 minutes more.
right. Can I have the next slide, please? So I've already discussed, I think, most of the points. You can take to the next slide. Right. So Ahmedabad is also the city which had the first heat action plan, and that was also one of the reasons we went there for reportage. Now, heat action plans are India's primary policy response to heat wave and for protecting vulnerable population. So they recommend a variety of preparatory activities, disaster response, to reduce the impact of heat waves. But basically, it proposes a series of measures that must be implemented based on temperatures in a specific city. So although a lot of what it proposes is in terms of alerting the public using early warning system, but there are also measures for workers. So for example, in Ahmedabad's plan, in a red alert situation, laborers' working hours should be changed. However, what we found was that not all factories follow these guidelines, and that these plans work only in terms of an advisory format. Factories are advised to give breaks to workers, keep them hydrated. But when we asked the authorities that in a lot of cases these are not followed, they admitted that they can just advise. They cannot go there and mandatorily ask the factory owners to follow something. So these are ineffective in many aspects, mainly because they're not mandatory in nature. And experts that we spoke to also said that we desperately need a legal or regulatory backup in terms of occupational heat exposure or heat hazard. Now, one of the measures under this heat action plan is also to shift work to nighttime after a certain temperature threshold is breached. But this year, what we experienced was many of the cities were not cooling at night. So the plan has not yet, come around it, how to work around that problem. In fact, next slide, please.
1 minute, please. Shagun,
The
thank
last.
you.
Thank you. Much before the heat action plans were conceived, we had the Factories Act 1948, according to which any factory must have a maximum wet bulb temperature of 30 degrees Celsius and adequate air movement. Now, this act specifies different conditions for dry and wet bulb temperature. For example, if dry bulb temperature ranges between 40 and 44, the wet bulb should not exceed 28 degrees inside a factory. However, based on temperature readings that we took during the project and interviews with many factory owners, civil society members, we observed that a large number of these factories violate this rule. There is absolutely no climate control mechanism, and there is little emphasis on implementation of these rules by even the labor department or other government authorities. Next slide, please. I think that's all. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening.
Great, just in time, Shagun. Thank you for sharing such an important points from the India's experience. So now the second speaker will take us through the context of heat stress and how the countries in Southeast Asia responds to the phenomenon. Jason Lee is an associate professor at the Yong Lin School of Medicine, National University of Singapore. He co-leads the Human Potential Translational Research Program and directs the Heat Resilience and Performance Center. Jason co-chairs the Heat Injury Clinical Practice Guidelines at the Ministry of Health and chairs the Scientific Committee on Thermal Factors at the International Commission on Occupational Health. The time is yours, Jason.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I think the previous speaker staged the scene nicely for me to zoom in to Southeast Asia. So I will start now. So again, just to say that I'm representing both the university and also recently we set out the WHO, WMO Global Heat Health Information Network, Southeast Asia Heat Health Hub. You will see at the end of my presentation, I will make a call to invite some of you to be part of these events in January 2025. It is the team, say hi, and they are still working hard as I speak. But I hope that for those who are looking for a stint in Singapore, do consider the Heat Resilience Performance Center. Here we undertake work for research, but we also translate work through the Heat Health Hub. I hope by now we know we have entered into the new phase. It's no longer global warming. UN Secretary General has announced a brand new phase of global warming. If that is not enough, a couple of months back, there's a call for actions towards extreme heat. And on the same day, a parallel report was also released by International Labour Organization. I know there's a lot of journalists here, and I ask that you take the lead now how we comb this information out. Sometimes I find too many, too frequent of the bad news can become common news. No? So there must be some science in dosing information too. In our part of the world, it is unique. It's not always just heat wave. In fact, one might argue in certain part of our world there is no heat waves. So for the longest time, we have assumed that no problem. It was always hot, still hot. It's going to be a bit hotter. We tropical natives are very good, and therefore heat is not a problem. Until you quantify it in other indirect impacts. In Singapore alone, we avoid the heat, and therefore we are paying the price of indirect impact on heat avoidance. Of course, we still have workers, soldiers, firefighters, law enforcers out there in the heat. So I say that we are experiencing both the direct and the indirect impact, and we are chronically exposed to this heat, which means lower productivity, higher exposure, compromising our decision, leading to accidents. So there's a lot of things underneath that carpet. It's not just no heat mortality, no problem. So if you could take a family portrait, this best represents us. For the longest time, we are the boiling frogs, just complaining about thermal discomfort, but lack of actions. There's one slide at the top of the iceberg. I have no time to elaborate each of these. Some are common, some are least common. I bet not many in this call are even aware that the high prevalence of myopia. I see on the screen, many are wearing spectacles. I'm putting hard lens at night to cure my eye disease. You might not be aware that it is so due to lack of outdoor exposure. So don't assume living in a hot environment for many of us in this call means we are overexposed to heat. The chronic avoidance of heat has incurred another list of problems. Physical health, mental health. Look at underneath the iceberg, there are a lot more that needs to be quantified. Put it from a societal, from an economic perspective, we are losing billions and billions unknowingly. So there's still a lot underneath the iceberg. I ask that people in this call go about quantifying it. Like it or not, some decision maker requires an economic imperative for them to invest more in extreme heats. So in heat, occupational heat, you know by now, often these are the three bubbles we are after: heat injury, productivity. Our focus in the third bubble, accident prevention. More often, but less understood. So we saw this study, it clearly shows that when you are thermally uncomfortable, you don't have to be boiling hot. Uncomfortable, you will perceive the risk differently. You want humans, in this case, workers, to perceive the risk correctly. If not, there will be lack of corresponding actions. We recently repeated this study in another context, looking at emergency workers. They are not hot to be concerned of getting heat stroke, but definitely thermally uncomfortable. When we administered a risk-taking test, we found those who are thermally uncomfortable tend to take more risk. Not good for them, not good for the patients under their charge. It was very powerful because them serving as their own control when we give them a cooling intervention, in this case, drinking an ice slurry to remove the thermal discomfort, the risk-taking behavior decreases accordingly. So it's not just about productivity, heat injury. It can help you make better decisions and therefore avoid accidents. So I'm a physiologist, so I love this slide. This is my favorite slide. To beat the heat, you must start cool, attenuate the rise, and extend your own limits. By doing so, look at the y-axis, your ability to tolerate heat is now expanded. And this expansion has a direct positive implication on your ability to do well in a hot environment. This slide is my favorite. I need to repeat this one more time. So without doing anything, we are doomed. Very quickly, we will succumb to heat stress. So if somebody comes to you and sell you a gadget that can beat the heat, it must either reduce, attenuate, or extend. By doing so, you can tolerate heat and you'll do well and do safely in the hot environment. And these are the list of not just effective, but sustainable physiological solutions that you can use to beat the heat. Look at the number one on your left. Nothing beats good, solid aerobic conditioning. So that's the tricky part, right? As it's hot, you avoid outdoor exposure, but as you find ways to keep yourself fit. One who is aerobically fit, they can deal with more stressors, including heat stress. Look at the bar on the left. On your right, hydration. It only ticks one of the three boxes. It attenuates the rate of rise, but do not over-consume. People think that you can beat the heat by drinking as much as possible. You can induce water intoxication. So harness these techniques holistically and don't just think that you can drink your way out of heat. Finally, I just want to quickly share Project Heat Safe. This project just completed. We went around Cambodia, Vietnam, even South Korea, plus Singapore to quantify the impact on heat on workers, looking at it from a multi-dimensional lens, not just a physiological lens, from an engineering, medical, economic, social, so on and so forth. Again, I have no time to elaborate. These are the representative places we went to, but I want you to focus the picture on the top center. They were delivery workers in South Korea. The condition then was 20 degrees Celsius. Most of us in this part of the world say that will be our winter. If any, in Singapore, there's no winter, right? Likewise in Indonesia. But that would be the coolest environment. But that is the condition where they were the hottest. They were physiological strain the most. Why? Because for workers, it's not so simple to assume that hot environment leads to hot workers. Because if the weather is not so hot, the workers work very hard, which was the case. They can get very hot. So this concept I want to emphasize in this talk is not just climate resulting in a hot body. It's a function of the weather, the climate, the clothing, and the exercise, the kind of work you are doing. The only group in these photos is the center group that are being paid by P. So they have additional motivation to work as hard as possible. Whereas the rest are fixed pay. There's no motivation to work extra hard because they get the same pay at the end of the day. Also, it's a little bit more sophisticated, but again, I will not elaborate. When we profile them using physiological technique as a group mean, most of them were actually okay. Look at their core temperature and their physiological strain. From a physiological standpoint, this would have been considered no problem, way below the threshold. But troubles and accidents occurs in the outliers. I give a couple of examples. One person could be due to his weight status, could be due to Ramadan. He exceeded the occupational limit. In this case, went as high as 38.6. In another case, in the indoor worker, which we thought that is not a problem, not true. Indoor places can be not ventilated. There could be extra heat sources. In this case, there was a worker working as high as 39.4. He was indeed boiling underground. Thank God, nothing happened. But these are the individuals we want to pick up through another layering, maybe it be physiological sensor, maybe it be additional layers of heat management to whiff and pick out every of these outlier. Finally, that is work package that we look at 3 interventions: education, inserting more bricks. I say it again, more bricks. You'll be surprised afterwards, you'll see more bricks do not equals to less productivity. And finally, we also look at their attire. These are the representative photos by educating them, debunking them, giving them shade and more rest and the right attire. We found, this is a very important finding, more rest resulted in better productivity. I said again, right? A lot of chairmen assume, oh, this guy is talking about providing more welfare. Maybe it's a conversation of getting less productive and more welfare. That is a wrong assumption. If you insert the rest correctly, it can not only protect the workers for a more sustainable workforce, it can also be good for your bottom line, for your business. Because many of these contexts, the workers are paid by the fixed sum. If you don't insert rest properly, they find very creative ways, sometimes voluntarily, sometimes involuntarily, to avoid excessive heat build-up, and therefore the price is a reduce in work productivity. Very glad to conclude this part. We need not just the technical specialists, not just the government, not just the enterprise. We need everyone to work hand in glove. Yeah, so I'm very proud, let's say in my context, the ministry that is responsible for workers is called Ministry of Manpower, abbreviated MUM. Nobody cares for us more than our mom, you know. So it reminds us in our daily work that we must undertake this work with empathy. Yeah, these are the workers that give us shelter, healthcare workers that give us health, platform workers that deliver us food. So the list, I know we must continue to do more for these workers. So we effected the findings, augments the policy, revised it, and more recently, the government did an audit, found out there's still a wanted in compliance. It's okay, don't punish them because they might not know the goodness of heat measures. We are continuing working to close this gap. And finally, as I said at the start, we're going to inaugurate a forum January 7 to 10 next year to bring together heat parties who are interested in augmenting heat health in the area of urban heat, occupational heat, and also traditional and cultural practices of heat stress. So this is not a research hub. This is a capacity building and communication hub. So this will be the forum next year in Singapore. For those who are keen, please reach out accordingly. And with that, this is my final slide. That is a QR code. Please follow us if you are interested in heat health related information and activities. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Jason. It was very effective, actually. You haven't reached your final time, actually.
I know we over it, so I tried to bite.
Right. So the regional context and progresses are very important to identify where we are and our concrete action. So thank you for sharing that, Jason. So our next speaker is Jani Purnawanti. Jani has been a lecturer in undergraduate and postgraduate programs and as a researcher since 1998. Her expertise includes international trade law, the law of treaties, cyber law, and bioethics in the cross-cutting issues perspective. Jani is the grantee of Impact Seed Fund, part of the Pulitzer Center programs in 2022 and 2023. She views the issue of climate change as a serious matter and needs to receive more public attention. So thank you for being here, Bu Janice. You may take the floor.
Thank you so much, Bu Gray. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good evening from Surabaya, Indonesia. It is really a huge honor for me to be able to speak in the esteemed global forum held by Pulitzer Center. And it is really a golden opportunity for me to convey a bit of my thought regarding the impact of climate change to worker health. Such a crucial issue which not gain so much attention from us. So allow me to start my presentation using Bahasa Indonesia as Ibu Granti is so generous to provide with the translation facility. Izinkan saya memulai presentasi dengan mengutip isi pidato former CEO dan Presiden Pulitzer Center on Crisis Reporting, Bapak John Sawyer, dalam keynote speech di Forum Climate and Labor Dialogue yang diselenggarakan oleh Pulitzer Center di Bangkok, Februari 2024. Beliau mengatakan bahwa tidak sampai 1% berita tentang perubahan iklim dimuat di media global. Jadi memperbincangkan masalah sekrusial climate change dengan exposure media yang sangat minim merupakan tantangan besar. Sehingga eksistensi Pulitzer Center menjadi strategis dan esensial karena Pulitzer secara konsisten mengusung misi memperjuangkan kekuatan reportase jurnalisme agar isu-isu kompleks berskala global menjadi relevan dan menginspirasi hingga mampu menggerakkan sampai ke wujud tindakan nyata. Izinkan saya memulai presentasi dengan bertanya. Please, next slide. Next slide. Thank you. Izinkan saya memulai presentasi dengan bertanya. Mengapa penting bagi kita mengurusi masalah kesehatan pekerja yang terdampak climate change? Mengapa kita perlu memberikan perhatian lebih kepada para pekerja? Bukankah masih banyak kelompok-kelompok masyarakat lain di luar pekerja yang layak juga mendapatkan perhatian? Para peserta webinar yang saya hormati, sektor ekonomi itu menjadi tulang punggung kehidupan manusia di dunia ini. Dan sektor ekonomi digerakkan oleh para pekerja. Sehingga ketika para pekerja terganggu atau mengalami kendala dalam bekerja, atau bahkan sampai berhenti bekerja, maka dampaknya akan sangat masif. Perekonomian akan berhenti, segala kebutuhan manusia tidak bisa lagi tersedia dengan memadai. Tanpa adanya pekerja, kebutuhan hidup manusia menjadi lebih sulit. Next. Next slide, please. Ini adalah to mention a few, termasuk namun tidak mewakili seluruh sektor kerja. Saya yakin sektor kerja saat ini semuanya terdampak dengan climate change. Saya tidak akan menjelaskan satu persatu, tapi saya berikan cerita yang terjadi di Indonesia. Para petani sekarang di Indonesia hanya mampu bekerja mulai jam 6 pagi sampai maksimum jam 10 pagi. Setelah itu nanti mulai bekerja lagi jam 4 sampai jam setengah 5 sore. Mengapa? Karena dari jam 10 sampai jam 4 sore atau jam 3 itu sangat terik, sangat panas. Kita yang tidak tinggal di desa mungkin tidak tahu bahwa menanam padi itu akan membenamkan kaki petani sampai separuh paha. Dan lumpur di sawah itu menjadi sangat mendidih, sangat panas sehingga bisa membuat kulit melepuh. Itu yang menyebabkan mengapa petani kemudian tidak bisa bekerja dalam waktu itu. Sehingga ketika bekerjanya petani jamnya berkurang, maka kemudian Anda bisa bayangkan kebutuhan pangan menjadi sangat terganggu juga. Fishing, sektor nelayan, ini kejadian nyata di Bangkalan, Jawa Timur, di Desa Kot, itu para nelayannya sudah berhenti mencari ikan di lautan. Karena tidak mampu lagi menangkap ikan, kalaupun toh menangkap ikan, tangkapannya sedikit. Mengapa demikian? Mereka mencari ikan dengan perahu tradisional. Tidak bisa mengejar ikan sampai jauh karena keterbatasan bensin solar di perahunya. Yang terjadi sekarang nelayan-nelayan di Desa Kot Bangkalan itu kita ajari untuk membudidayakan rumput laut, karena rumput laut terbukti menyerap karbon 3 kali lebih banyak daripada tanaman, dan rumput laut itu hasilnya bisa dipakai untuk bahan industri. Sehingga bayangkan, beruntung nelayan di Bangkalan itu bisa dialihkan pekerjaannya, tapi bagaimana dengan nelayan-nelayan di daerah lain yang tidak punya alternatif bekerja? Kalau menangkap ikan tidak mendapatkan hasil, maka kemudian dia tidak bisa mendapatkan pekerjaan yang lainnya lagi. Terima kasih. Ya, saya next slide, please. Nah, saya tidak akan menjelaskan panjang lebar karena tadi Pak James Lee sudah menjelaskan resiko dari variety of health issue yang sudah ada. Satu hal yang mungkin perlu kita pahami bahwa jangan dikira memanasnya suhu itu hanya akan mempengaruhi badan kita secara fisik, tetapi lebih lagi itu mempengaruhi mental health-nya kita. Sehingga penting bagi kita sekarang itu mengetahui simptom bahwa kita menjadi lebih stres ketika berada di suhu yang semakin panas dan seterusnya. Next. Nah, kalau ditanya apakah ada instrumen internasional yang mengatur tentang dampak pekerja yang terekspos oleh climate change? Ada. Saya bisa tunjukkan di sini ada Paris Agreement artikel ke-7, kemudian ILO Convention nomor 165 tahun 81, kemudian Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, kemudian UNFC 3. Dan kemudian SDG ada target 3, lebih khusus target 3.9, SDG 8, SDG 13. Next. Nah, kalau ditanya bagaimana dengan Indonesia persoalan legislasi, para peserta webinar yang saya hormati, saya perlu menuliskan agak panjang lebar tentang rute atau jalur yang perlu ditempuh sampai kemudian pekerja di Indonesia mendapatkan perlindungan yang maksimum. Yang pertama-tama adalah awareness education, kemudian capacity building, skill development, policy advokasi, implementasi adaptasi measure, community empowerment, sustainability, dan seterusnya. Indonesia ada di mana sekarang? Kalau saya sampaikan dengan nada optimistis, kita sekarang sudah pada tahapan yang ketiga, meskipun kita masih harus banyak bekerja pada level yang pertama, yaitu level awareness dan education. Next, please. Nah, ini adalah yang bisa saya gambarkan kepada para peserta webinar sekalian. Bagaimana sih pemahaman umum orang Indonesia tentang climate change? Orang Indonesia, karena di Indonesia kita tinggal di negara tropis, kemudian kita sudah terbiasa dengan panas, apalagi kalau di Surabaya hawa panas itu bukan hal yang aneh bagi kita, sehingga tidak banyak orang tahu bahwa suhu bumi sekarang meningkat. Dianggapnya panas aja, kita sudah terbiasa panas. Jadi ini fenomena climate change itu tidak dikenali, tidak banyak dikenali. Dan yang kemudian lebih jauh lagi, climate change itu tidak dianggap sebagai bagian dari perbuatannya manusia. Dianggap memang sudah ini kejadian alam, terjadi dengan sendirinya. Nah, ini yang kemudian menjadi hal yang perlu dipahami oleh pemangku kebijakan dan para pejabat bahwa hal yang paling utama di Indonesia itu adalah meningkatkan literasi tentang climate change itu sendiri. Bagian sebelah kanan itu adalah penyebabnya. Kenapa kok literasi orang Indonesia tentang climate change itu rendah? Yang pertama saya bisa sebutkan membicarakan, for example, emisi gas rumah kaca, dekarbonisasi, belum lagi bicara tentang zat-zat kimia yang berada CO2 yang menyebabkan climate change. Itu orang-orang yang tidak mempunyai background saintifik yang cukup, itu akan nggak ngerti, itu omongan apa sih, emisi gas rumah kaca itu seperti apa, efek rumah kaca seperti apa. Itu yang menyebabkan complexity of the climate science, itu yang menyebabkan agak sulit kita memahami tentang climate change. Kemudian ada misinformasi dan ketidakakuratan data tentang climate change di Indonesia. Dan memang harus kita akui, memang edukasi tentang climate change itu memang tidak ada dalam kurikulum kami saat ini, dan itu sebabnya kami sekarang sudah mulai berbicara dengan UNESA, Universitas Negeri Surabaya yang membidani masalah pendidikan, untuk memasukkan pengetahuan tentang climate change dalam setiap topik yang relevan. Next. Pada kali sebelumnya, seringkali kemudian semua bencana alam yang terjadi itu memang karena sudah kehendak Tuhan, demikian. Dan kemudian pemahaman orang di pedesaan dan di perkotaan tentang climate change itu juga bervariasi. Next. Nah, sekarang apa perannya saya, orang-orang seperti saya, akademisi di kampus, untuk dapat membantu memberikan penyadaran terhadap fenomena climate change ini? Tentu saja melalui pendidikan dan research, kemudian kolaborasi industri dan government, beberapa saat yang lalu saya sudah berbincang-bincang santai dengan rekan saya yang bekerja di sektor industri. Saya menanyakan apakah climate change sudah menjadi awareness bagi mereka. Bagi perusahaan-perusahaan besar mereka sudah tahu. Yang menjadi perhatian kita adalah pekerja-pekerja di sektor informal yang rata tidak mendapatkan perlindungan terhadap dampak climate change ini. Dan government kami juga sudah mencoba berbicara dan mengkomunikasikan ada fenomena climate change yang kita perlu mengadaptasi aturan-aturan kita. Itu kemudian community outreach engagement dan seterusnya, developing climate training dan seterusnya, dan yang lebih utama adalah memang kewajibannya dosen adalah untuk menulis dan mempublikasikan tulisannya di media massa sehingga mudah diakses. Nah, berkaitan dengan publikasi artikel dan reports, next please slide-nya, maka saya sejak menjadi grant dari ISF 2023, saya menggunakan materi-materi tulisan jurnalis Pulitzer ke dalam mata kuliah saya. Mengapa saya suka menggunakan tulisannya Irene Becker, tulisannya Bhaskar Braspati? Karena jurnalis itu mempunyai kemampuan menulis yang berbeda dengan akademisi. Jurnalis itu karena sudah tahu bahwa yang mereka tulis akan dibaca orang awam, oleh karena itu maka tulisannya dia bisa mensimplifikasi hal-hal kompleks sehingga mudah dibaca. Jurnalis mempunyai kemampuan storytelling yang mungkin kami tidak mempunyainya, sehingga dengan kemampuan storytelling itu akan lebih mengengage secara personal dan menyentuh hati nurani orang. Nah, kemudian jurnalisme itu kemudian melakukan reportase on the spot pada waktu yang pada kejadian yang on time sebutkan. Nah, kemudian kenapa saya kemudian lebih banyak memasukkan materi-materi yang ditulis oleh jurnalis ya, kan memang keuntungannya adalah timeline-nya selalu aktual dan terbaru dan terdepan. Kemudian mudah diakses, kemudian human center approach itu yang saya suka. Karena seringkali kami kalau dosen membuat penelitian nanti apa cerita di lapangan yang terjadi jadinya tabel, jadinya angka. Tetapi reportase jurnalisme itu akan lebih mempunyai perspektif yang lebih humanis. Kemudian seringkali karya jurnalisme itu juga memberikan kritik yang sangat tajam dan bagus untuk menjadi refleksi. Next. Nah, kalau saya boleh mengusulkan dalam rangka mempercepat proses public awareness, maka mungkin kita perlu meningkatkan lagi kolaborasi dengan media. Karena saya meyakini kekuatan media, orang lebih suka, mungkin lebih mudah mengakses media daripada beli buku, baca jurnal, dan seterusnya. Berikutnya adalah sharing and caring. Anda semua, para mahasiswa saya yang ikut webinar pada malam hari ini, jadi tahu kan sekarang ada climate change, jadi tahu bahwa climate change itu dampaknya masif bagi kesehatan pekerja. Maka tolong itu di-share ke lebih banyak orang. Karena diplomasi sosialisasi dari mulut ke mulut di antara peer groups itu saya yakin lebih mengena dan lebih powerful. Kemudian apa yang Anda ketahui tentang bagaimana kita melindungi diri kita terhadap climate change? For example, minum yang banyak. Kalau lagi panas jangan beraktivitas di luar. Kalau sedang panas pakai baju yang warnanya cerah, jangan pakai baju warnanya gelap dan seterusnya. Itu yang kemudian perlu kita lebih sebarluaskan sehingga climate change itu menjadi percakapan yang kesehari-harian kita. Berikutnya kemudian kita harus lebih memfokuskan lagi bahwa memang indeed climate change itu berdampak pada kesehatan dan ini yang perlu kita soundingkan lagi. Next, ini adalah slide terakhir saya. Sure, by protecting workers today, we ensure a resilient, sustainable tomorrow. Terima kasih sudah dengan tekun mendengarkan apa yang saya sampaikan. Kembali kepada Bu Gre, terima kasih.
Thank you so much, Bu Jenny, for sharing more on how university could play an active role in advocating for positive change in climate and labor issues. I think we have seen some questions in the Q&A section. We would like to invite you all to post questions in that box. Please continue to do so. We are now transitioning to our last speaker, coming from business side. Ahmad Dahlan, representing Pertamina, the largest oil and gas company in Indonesia. Ahmad Dahlan is an experienced safety and health professional with extensive leadership roles in the oil and gas industry. Currently, he serves as the Health, Safety, Security, and Environment Performance Manager at PT Pertamina Persero. He holds a master's degree in Occupational Safety and Health Technology from University of Indonesia. His career spans over 2 decades, with a strong focus on safety engineering, risk management, and human performance in both national and international contexts. Welcome, Pak Ahmad. The time is yours.
Thank you, Gray. And it has become easier for me now because of Ibu Jani and also Jason Lee already mentioned some item like illness, heat illness, and also emission reduction, something like that. Now, I would like to continue with my presentation here. I would like to share with you, all ladies and gentlemen, the practice that we are doing in Pertamina related with the global warming and hot environment in the workplace. So, next, please. Hello. Yes. Before we start, please allow me to illustrate our operations. So we have 6 subholdings operation more and less like this. Upstream is in charge for exploration and productions, and we operate around 200,000 kilometer in Indonesia area in Indonesia, and also we operate in the several countries like in Africa, Algeria, Iraq, etc., and Malaysia. Then we have also refining and petrochemical industry in Indonesia, commercial and trading, new and renewable energy. We operate geothermal here in Indonesia, and also we run also business with the gas distribution, more or less like that. Last but not least, we also operate integrated maritime logistics. So we operate around 256 unit marine fleets. This is for fuel terminal, cargo shipping, etc., and they travel around the world. Next, please. Yeah, this. Talking about the global warming, here we need to attack from both sides, which is we have to combat also by reducing environmental temperature, by reducing greenhouse gas emission, and also we need to accelerate energy transition in order to allow us to accelerate from fossil fuel into new and renewable energy. And then we have to protect our worker also from excessive heat. Next, please. Yeah, this is our company policy related to global warming, reduce GHG emission and accelerate energy transition. Next, please. This is the real that what we are doing today. In the left side, this is the list of existing processes that we do in Pertamina. First, energy efficiency. We challenge our operation to operate more efficient, especially in utilization of the energy sources. And then we reduce also any losses like methane, even from fugitive emission, as well as flaring. So we try to use the gas that normally we send to flare to production. Green power generation also, we accelerate this power generation, and also we develop for low or zero emission fuel. We transfer from fuel from liquid fuel to gas fuel, more or less like that. And here in the right side, in order to reduce the carbon in the future, we accelerate our business in geothermal, solar, PV, photovoltaic, and also biofuel, blue and green hydrogen, battery and EV ecosystem, CCS and CCUS. This is a new business in the future. We are going to talk about the how we capture carbon from environment and store in our reservoir. Then CCUS is talking about the carbon capture and reutilization in our storage. Nature ecosystem based solution. This is more or less like we are going to do offsetting of the emission that we have today with the absorption, with the plantation, something like that. So we have to start it by today because of as mentioned by Bujani, we have a Paris Agreement in 2015. We call it the COP21, and also in 2023, COP28 also mentioned and strengthened this commitment. COP is a commitment of parties. Almost all countries in the world committed to reduce the temperature of this world by 1.5 up to 2 centigrade. Next, please. Okay. After the effort made by Pertamina, this is the figure. You can access also in detail this data in our sustainability report, annual sustainability report, and you can download this document. And here, from all effort that we made from 2010 up to 2024, we have already reduced around 8.5 million ton CO2 equivalent. This is a huge number, of course. Next, please. And this is the project that we are doing today in order to accelerate our low carbon future and target that has been given by government in order to support the commitment of parties. We run several projects like listed here, like a CCUS in Central Sumatra, yes, with collaboration with Mitsui company, and we work also with ExxonMobil. We run CCS hub in Asri Basin, and also with Japan Consortium or GGC. And also with the Institute Teknologi Bandung. So a lot of projects, some of them in the study phase, and some of them is already in operation phase. Next, please.
8 minutes, Mas Ahmad.
Yes, thank you. And then this is we come up to the second one, which is how the way we protect our people from heat exposure. This is our company policy. Next, please. Yeah, as mentioned by ILO, this is the newest information from International Labour Organization that around 2.4 billion workers in the world exposed to the excessive heat. I think I don't want to repeat this one because of it has been mentioned by previous speaker. Next, please. Here in Pertamina, in the last 4 years, we experienced several incidents related with the heat exposure. First, it was happened in 2020 when our electrician suddenly fell weak and dizzy and faint. Then it was suspected due to exposure to hot temperature. And immediately we evacuate him into clinic and provide treatment. Then the second case was happened in one of our operation in Sahara Desert. 2 personnel experienced weak dehydration. It was suspected also due to hot temperature because at that time I was there also. It was around 43 and 44 centigrade. And the activity like in the picture in the right side here, and so the activity is internal cleaning of the tank. You can imagine when the environment temperature was 43 centigrade, and inside of this vessel was 48 up until 50 centigrade. And then yeah, fortunately, we can provide proper treatment for the worker. And okay, in 2024, one of our crane operator in Indonesia experienced illness because of heat exposure. Then here below, I just would like to highlight to you all gentlemen and ladies that even though we have already do measurement, for example, here, this is all from the measurement we got 32 centigrade. In fact, by having this global warming, we experience 37 in the same place. So this is I would like to highlight, even though it was already measured last year, but today could be different. Next, please. This is our policy. First, we start with the risk assessment. We push our operation to include heat stress in the risk assessment. So now we launch that all of our risk assessment must be include heat stress assessment and to provide the mitigation. Next, please. And also we perform health risk assessment, all area register and what is the hazard. Then we include also heat stress risk evaluation. Next. Here is our procedure. We refer to HG. This is the temperature that we have to comply, especially for the one who are working outdoor. Next. And hydration policy, I think this has been mentioned by Jason Lee also. In our operation, no one is allowed working remote or working offshore without bringing adequate water. So our security will check then to ensure this, and we also provide in some point for refilling point. And if you see, this is the graphic that I collect for this presentation for you, just to illustrate it, to give you an illustration. Starting 2016, this trend of drinking water consumption is decreased up until 2021. However, starting 2021, it is increased again up until today to 3.5 liter per person per day. This illustrate to us or this provide information to us that the need to water is becoming increased today. Next. Selection of clothing material and color, as mentioned by Ibu Jani, there are a lot of research related with this, where white and yellow color particularly provide colder temperature. Here in Pertamina, we have around four color clothing material for our coverall, blue, orange, and also brown. Normally, the one here with the brown we use in the Sahara Desert operation because of we have extreme high temperature right there. Next, please. Also, and also communication and campaign is important, as mentioned by Jan Lee. This is something like education. We have to frequently remind them to anticipate in our operation. Next, please. In conclusion, I would like to highlight that now heat stress is becoming a critical issue and affect millions of workers in the world. That's why it is becoming important also for us to educate our worker related to the heat stress and its potential danger. And we have to continuously implement strict control like risk mitigation, scheduling, resting and working period, hydration, acclimatization, clothing policy, And if it is possible to shifting the high risk activity from daylight to night activities to night, yes. And last but not least, we have to continuously to work in reducing greenhouse gas emission. I think that's all from me, Ray. I give back
Thank
to
you.
you.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Mas Ahmad. It's great to listen to the innovations that has been done internally in the business world as well from the Pertamina. So now we are entering the Q&A session. Thank you for your enthusiasm. I think we have received lots of important questions from the audience. So a reminder as well to the speakers to answer the questions that have written in the Q&A box. But we would like to also invite you to answer this live. So I have chosen some of this question from the Q&A section here. Okay, I will read the first question. My name is Muhammad Hendi Hidayat from Erlangga University. What is the opinion of the companies that do not provide relief, even though the warming is so hot in 2024? What is the most optimum way for the countries or the state to protect it? For example, it happens to non-formal field sector workers with small salaries and rights protections not being guaranteed as like blue-collar laborers or like outdoor workers. One example is a construction coolies in Indonesia. So maybe I would like to invite some of you, maybe Jason, Shagun, Pak Ahmad, or Ibu Jani would like to go first.
Yep.
Can I go first?
Yes, you can, of course.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Jason, sorry. Can I go first, Jason?
Of course. Please go.
Sure. Okay, thank you so much. Hendy, thank you so much for the it is a very, what is that, a nail question. I believe that if the government, if the company is a big company, they follow the regulation. They have like a work safety rules or K3 regulation. So I think all the workers in the formal sector more protected other than the informal worker. It is too pity that the informal worker, that's most of us, most of the worker are not protected well. Even when I talk to Minister of Manpower, it is it is hard to reach out them to give the protection. So I think because here it is the, what is that, to taking care of them, they also working with the Kementerian Sosial. So that's how our government protect non-formal sector worker. So if you are talking about what the company should do, what the government should do if the company doesn't provide a proper, what is that, proper protection for the worker, even there is a sign and also warn that the temperature getting higher and higher. So I think I have not yet found the data and also the field data how this happens, but I think here once again, because the understanding of the global warming, the impact to the worker health is still so low in Indonesia. So I think it could be this kind of incident happens many times in Indonesia, but not recorded. So I think this is our task and our duty to be more aggressive, to educate all the society about this phenomenon, so we can prevent any further victim to fall down. That is for me, Bu Grandi. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bu Jani. Jason?
Yeah, I just want to add from a behavioral perspective. Yeah, you got to see from the company's perspective, why should they respond to the policy? Know, put yourself in their shoe. If we talk about the risk of getting heat injured, they will respond by telling you that if I don't take the risk to work hard in the hot environment, it's not risk. I will bring less bread home and my family will suffer immediately. So that is the risk they are willing to take. And I just spent a week in Bandung ITP last week, right? There we are looking at the Gojek deliverer in face of a warming world. So we already had this concept, right? Could it be the way to motivate them to respond to this prospective policy is, I give you an example. In a cool day, they deliver 6 orders. During hot days, if you think we can just tell them, say, it's hot, you should rest and don't do too many orders, do you think they will respond? I don't think so. No, they will have to work because they get paid more. But maybe we think of this creatively, right? Maybe the customer can now pay a bit of premium so that during hot days, they don't have to do so many deliveries, yet they are not being compromised in their payment. Maybe the Gojek CEO should know that if you don't subsidize them to do less orders, you will pay more in other ways, because data show there could be more accidents, there'll be more health hazard that will eat out your economy in other ways, you know. So the insurance company can also come in and say we're going to insure them. So all this will be a whole of society approach. So my main point is, don't assume solution push out, policy push out will be responded by the recipients. We must give them the reason to respond. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jason and Ibu Jenny, such a great insights. Now, for the second question, hi, I'm Gwen Christine Dorado from College of Mary Immaculate, Philippines. What is the importance or meaning of heat action plan? I think this is addressed to Shagun.
Right. Thank you for this question. As I had mentioned, heat action plans are Indian government's policy response to mitigate heat, prevent heat. But I'd also like to, point out that as one of the questions I saw, I want to merge both the answers, that efforts to, advocate for these plans or greater protection of the workers under these plans, they definitely have been gaining momentum in the recent years. And there is increasing awareness. But what is happening is, I had mentioned that the heat action plans are mostly in an advisory format. So they are not really binding on the factories. And even though many of the cities, like we visited the Ahmedabad city, and many of the cities are actually making sure that several aspects of this heat action plans are implemented on the ground. Say, for example, early warning systems are given to people. But when it comes to especially going to workplaces, and that's the work of the labor department, essentially. So that is not happening on the ground. But other measures like putting up sprinklers, and we saw this and we thought that it was really innovative. The local authority in Ahmedabad city had put up, say, water sprinklers at the traffic lights, so that people who stop there during, when the traffic light is red, so they do not feel that sudden heat, because Ahmedabad sees temperatures as high as, now they're crossing even 50 degrees Celsius in the summer months. So heat action plans and measures under it are definitely working at a city level. But again, when it comes to, implementing them at workplaces, construction sites, factories, that is not happening on the ground. I also wanted to, talk about some of the solutions that many of the people have asked in the questionnaire. Can I go with that, Renty? I saw some of the questions about it. Okay, thank you. So when during our reportage, we came across different solutions, and we documented that a lot of NGOs are also working on this, and a lot of other experts told us. Now, for what we saw for ourselves, and that is a very simple solution. We saw that at many of these brick kilns or construction sites, there were a few shaded places at these outdoor work sites. So for example, a large tree under which workers usually take breaks to escape from heat, but not many workers can fit in that area. So a solution, could be as simple as building a green or a shaded place within that area, so that it becomes a dedicated place for workers to cool down their bodies. Because we also took temperature readings at those, people who were sitting under that tree, we took the temperature readings of that area, and we found that the temperature gets reduced by a good 2 to 3 degrees Celsius compared to the open area. So thus a simple solution like putting up a green net, making a shading area that will block direct sunlight, or having more green spaces just near where the workers spend their time working, that will allow them to cool down their bodies, have a proper recovery. And another thing that the researchers also told us was about other simple solutions like spot conditioning, which means instead of cooling the volume, that is the factory floor, and this is for indoor workers. So instead of cooling the whole volume, just cool what is required around your body, to keep the workers comfortable. But again, the question remains that who's going to fund all this? And we came across some factory owners who were eager to, try out these initiatives or are already trying it out, but those are only a handful. Those are really exceptions. So most of the owners do not want to spend any money on this. And this is where we think that even the government should try to incentivize these initiatives, and these should form the part of the heat action plan, work with NGOs working on these innovative solutions.
Thank you, Shagun. I think we can move to the next question. So I will read it. Good evening to everyone. How is the United Nations respond to this global concern? Is there any particular response like international policy norms from the United Nations to address this global concern of the workers? Maybe someone wants to take up these questions.
Yeah, a quick one. I have inserted a link. In there, you find a few reports from a UN perspective. As I said, last year, there was a call, and this year, there was a call for action by UN SecGen himself. And then specific to the workers' context, ILO also issued a report on extreme heats for the workers. But those are policy at a very high level. The broad principles are there, right? I asked each country, each county, each city to contextualize them. You might not have the weather station to look at the nearest climate impact, but it could be somebody in the village responsible to give the data to fill in the overall equations. So it's all about contextualizations to make the heat action plan, because related to the earlier question, right? The early warning system and action plan must work hand in glove, must be contextualized. It cannot be just good on policy. A lot of things stop at policy and nobody is responding to the policy, and we don't find out why are they not responding, So if you are serious about this business, you need to really contextualize these materials. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Maybe I can ask the speakers to continue answering the questions in the Q&A box, because we have quite a lot of questions there. Thank you so much, everyone, for posting such important questions to all of us. So we now move to some questions that I think worth for us to discuss together. So this question is addressed to all the speakers. So the first is that, how do you view the progress of the efforts to advocate for greater protection of workers affected by environmental factors, such as heat stress and weather anomalies? Who would like to take up the first question?
Let me answer first. Great.
Yes, Pasama.
Okay. So according to me, today it is progressing a lot. Yes, webinar like this is also a part of a driving force to push government or also policymaker to work with and to continuously protect our worker from the excessive heat, etc. As in parallel also, as mentioned previously, with commitment of parties also highlight this part to reduce the temperature of the environment, etc. Then yes, according to me, today even though still there is some company that not respect for this global warming, but in the world mostly even country and company they also already work positively to we can protect people and this I think that's all from me.
Thank you. Can I get some response from maybe Jason, Bujani, or Shagun on this question?
Yeah, just briefly, I echo, I think it's a good start to bring multiple domains and discipline sectors in the society to address this. This cannot be a single domain sector agenda. And this collaboration, I'm an optimist, right? I say, well, there's crisis ahead. Crisis often offer opportunities, So I think this is a glue that's going to pull us all together. Yeah, I can elaborate further, but I shouldn't. I think we should continue to have such conversations, and then after this, take this offline. It's not what is happening during this seminar, but what is important after this seminar. What do we do? And going to where Prof. Janya reminded us, there's a need in our region to first quantify the impact on heat in our context. Because what you cannot quantify, what you cannot measure, you cannot improve. If we keep on thinking that it's the global north literature about heat waves and people die, we look at us that say there's no heat waves, nobody died of heat waves, we would have accidentally concluded it's not a big problem. You look at the other indirect and direct impacts on how it affects our livelihoods. For example, our walkability. You see, in this part of the world, we don't have this concept of walking to work. They say the infra and the heat, who walks to work, and lack of physical activity, and there's health issues. So there's just one example of the indirect chronic exposure of heat that we are paying the price. Physical health, mental health as examples. So we need to quantify those. Then when we introduce the intervention, it reduces that, and then hopefully the government will feel that this is a worthwhile investment. If not, heat is quite unique. You don't see infrastructure damage most of the time because it damages the people more than the infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Bujani, do you want
Yes,
to
thank you,
contribute?
Bugre. So once I have a discussion with the Ministry of Net Power, so actually, when I asked about whether there is a specific regulation addressing the impact of the workers exposed by climate change, of course, the answer is no, because climate change itself is a phenomenon that we recently aware of it, right? So, but don't we have a regulation on that? The answer is yes. We have a certain regulation that when we are talking about the impact, so for example, the requirement to provide a healthy environment, the requirement to have a break after working certain hours. We have such regulation on that. So I think that regulation can be used to tackle the issue on the climate change, worker health on climate change. So I think saya mohon izin bicara dalam bahasa Indonesia, enggak apa-apa Ibu? Okay, so tetapi kita tahu bahwa climate change have a more specific issue on the health. So I think once we can identify that risk, so mungkin kita bisa menambah lagi aturan hukum kita untuk lebih mengadres masalah-masalah yang khusus dihadirkan oleh climate change terhadap kesehatan pekerja, untuk lebih menyempurnakan aturan yang sudah kita punya. Jadi kalau dikatakan apakah kita punya aturan yang kalau memang dicari adalah nomenklatur climate change, kita nggak ada, Bu Gre. Tetapi regulasi yang ada sekarang itu bisa dipergunakan untuk memberikan perlindungan kepada pekerja yang terekspos resiko karena climate change. Jadi memang kita masih perlu melakukan banyak hal untuk memberikan public awareness kepada masyarakat dan juga mengusulkan lebih bersuara lagi kepada pihak pemerintah untuk mengakomodasi kekhususan yang ditimbulkan akibat climate change terhadap sektor ekonomi dan sektor pekerja. Mungkin itu dari saya. Terima kasih.
Shagun, do you want to contribute to this question?
Sure. Very briefly, just that yes, I feel there is increasing, awareness. In fact, during the reportage, we got to see the work of various advocacy organizations working with workers, making them and the work sites also working with the factory owners aware that they're coming up with solutions, doing pilot projects. But of course, it's an uphill task, and as both Jason, Ahmed, and all the speakers said that the point from here on is to keep moving forward.
All right. I think we have discussed many actions, like what to do, but I would like to take the time to contemplate on this. Like, what are the most urgent actions the stakeholders should take to ensure greater protection for workers? Who would like to start?
Okay, Bugre, I will consist on the effort that we are increasing the awareness, not only to the society, but also to the worker itself. And also in the same time, we also come approaching the legislative to address, because talking to them only once is never not enough. So we have to keep talking on the same issue until they understand there is an issue on their part. So I think meanwhile we also try to maximize the existence legislation to as an umbrella to protect the workers. That is for me. Thank you, Bugre.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to add, for me, there are two levels. At the governmental level, we need to create first the awareness that why should we invest more, so they can quantify from a societal, from a economic, from a long-term perspective. Hopefully, they can make a decision. It's not just about health; it's about bottom line. This investment is really for business. It's not one or the other. It's also for accident prevention. From the workplace perspective, usually these are the three big barbers that they have already established metrics. The workers' health, workers' productivity, and potentially the accident. I personally feel in my own experience, right, the third barber, less described, is very powerful, because sometimes that is beyond the company's prerogative not to take action, because there will be audits, imposing sanctions if it have accidents that they could have avoid. So ideally, you want to trigger the right action, say that it is only for workers' health. But I've seen enough small, medium-sized company, they will tell you, I know workers' health, but Jason, I have a bottom line to meet. I need to meet the minimum requirements. So they will take those risks accordingly. So does that mean that some of those measures we described, which require investment, can be subsidized by donors in other ways? Because usually the big companies, are not always, but big companies have resources to respond. But the smaller companies don't, how do we help them to respond to the policy? So remember, it's important to customize the policy, because one size cannot fit all. And the other part is on the community at the workers level. We must also do the concurrent education. They want to preserve their life. But again, going back to behavior science, right? You must find ways for them to respond. Humans don't take actions when the rewards and the punishment are long-term. Yeah, the tobacco incident has taught us, put on scary pictures, say don't smoke because you might have lung cancer 30 years. They will continue to smoke. So you must find the reason, whether there is incentive or sometimes punishment if there's a need for actions to be taken. Thank you.
Great insights. Thank you, Jason. Maybe Shagun or Mas Ahmad?
Yeah, I think I agree with what mentioned by Jason's law enforcement to be accelerated, I think, but the law itself now maybe is not exists in all countries. So we have to push to develop this regulation, then socialization from government to encourage people aware about this. Because of if we are talking about the let's say protecting deceleration of global warming, it is a kind of investment when it is not directly related to the revenue. It is not directly create revenue. Sometimes company, for example, if it is if they have to be a voluntary doing that, it will be a little bit become a burden for the company. Yes, I think law enforcement is very important for this one. That's all.
Shagun?
Yeah, I think we've covered most of the solutions and actions. I'd just like to add that for stakeholders, instead of treating it as measures that the government has to take during the 3 or 4 months, the rate of warming and in general climate change should now become a quintessential part of any kind of policy making.
Great, thank you so much, everyone. I think our next question would be addressed specifically to the business side of it. So, Mas Ahmad, mohon izin dulu. So the question would be, how can we get more companies to initiate heat-related policy to protect workers? And in Pertamina, what is your main challenge to secure support from leadership, and how you can overcome it? You're muted still, Mas Ahmad.
Okay, thank you, Granty, Bu Gray. From Pertamina, we have already like a commitment from our top leader. So this kind of create policy in our middle management level, then to cascade down that to the frontliner level. In fact, there is still a hesitation from people to report something like that. Yes, we know that happens in the frontliner level in case there is a near miss related with the incident. Related to the heat exposure or illness, something like that. Not all of employee reported could be like that potentially, as I mentioned that since 2020 up until today we receive only 4 reported cases. So, for example, so this is need of a kind of the campaign to be to promote the transparent reporting, to educate our people and then give them training, etc. As well as we have to provide also with the knowledge how to respond in case it is happen. And policy, maybe no one is allowed working alone because of we need to have a support for the peer or co-worker. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Also, I do have a follow-up questions on that, Mas Ahmad. So I think other speakers have also presented some like recommendations for the workers' protection. What would be the most applicable points for your company to advance further on that points?
Are you addressing to me or to other speaker?
Yes, to you,
Okay.
Mas Ahmad. Yeah.
Okay, the most important point for me is a risk assessment, right? Risk assessment, because of what we have today is could be different with what we measured yesterday. Because of global warming is keep rising, then we need to mitigate. So every day, every activity maybe will be different with what we have yesterday. Risk assessment to be done, certain mitigation measure to be rendered and to be implemented. That's all, great.
Thank you so much, Mas Ahmad, and thank you to all the speakers that have shared so much insights to us. I think I have learned a lot from all of you. I hope all of the participants have also learned lots of important insights and can take the takeaways further to our own context. So I think we are now at the end of the session. So we are inviting the participants to fill out some surveys. Also, I would like to invite the participants or students of Universitas Airlangga to fill out a data here. So please look at that information in the webinar chat. So just to go back for the takeaways that we have learned together today, I think my favorite takeaways from today's is that workers are the backbone of the modern society, as Ibu Jani said. And also we have learned that more correct rest, resulting more productivity. And also the most urgent things is that to increase the public awareness on the heat and workers protection, not just to the workers itself, but also the public and also wider government. Crisis is an opportunity. It's not a single domain effort, but for everyone to take up and to support and create better livelihood. Customized policies need to be developed. No one size fits all policy. I think that's a really important takeaways as well. And I think I would like to learn further about the three bubbles, maybe, but in the next discussion. And citing to Jason's slides, are we boiling frogs? Aware of the heat, but has very slow action on legislation and decision. Everyone can be an enabler to advocate better workers' protection from heat. Protecting workers today, we can ensure a resilient, sustainable for tomorrow. So thanks again to Shagun, Mas Ahmad, Ibu Jani, and Jason for today that have shared very important topics of climate and labor. Please join our next webinar next week on Tuesday, October 8th, titled Controversial Solutions Hindering the Path to Fair Development in Rainforest Region. I'm Granty on behalf of all the Pulitzer Center and all distinguished speakers today. Thank you so much to all participants and have a great evening to all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Alam.
Dr. Jason, can I have the link for January event?
Yes. I have. Could you drop me a note at my email, then I can follow up accordingly? I put it
Okay. Thank you.
because the website is not up yet. We will launch it.
Okay. I drop my email in chat box, right?
I've dropped my email on the chat group. You can just copy.
Okay. I will check.
Okay, bagus.
Bagus.
Okay, terima kasih.
Terima kasih banyak,
Terima
Pak
kasih,
Jason.
Jason.
Thank you so much.
Shagun.
Okay. Yes, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Jani.
Pertanyaannya
Mas Ahmad.
banyak dan bagus-bagus. Saya nggak ini ya.